Rick Warren's life story is one of immense influence and deep personal struggle. For over 4 decades, he was a beacon of hope and guidance for millions of people around the world. As the founder of Saddleback Church, he built a global ministry that reached countless individuals. His books, including The Purpose-Driven Church and The Purpose-Driven Life, inspired millions to seek meaning and purpose beyond the distractions of everyday life. But behind the public persona of a global pastor and best-selling author, Rick Warren's life has been marked by unimaginable loss and personal battles. His story is one of resilience and unwavering faith, even when faced with personal hardship and illness. Early life, foundations of faith and service. Rick Warren was born Richard Dwayne Warren on January 28, 1954, in San Jose, California. Raised in the small town of Ukiah, he grew up in a family steeped in faith. His father, Jimmy Warren, was a humble Baptist minister and carpenter, building churches brick by brick. His mother, Dot Warren, was a librarian, whose calm nature instilled in Rick a love for books and curiosity about the world. From a young age, Rick witnessed the power of service, watching his father travel from town to town, helping communities in need. It was a life of humility, and it shaped Rick's view of ministry, one that was about service, not recognition. A youth with purpose, Rick's teenage years were a time of quiet determination and early leadership. He wasn't the most popular kid, but his sense of purpose was already clear. While others were caught up in the distractions of adolescence, Rick focused on his faith. He spent hours reading theology and mentoring his classmates. In his senior year of high school, he founded the Fishers of Men Club, a Christian group that became the first of its kind on campus. His courage to speak out in a turbulent era showed that he was destined for something greater. Rick's leadership was grounded in his desire to help others find meaning and purpose in their lives, even at that young age. A divine calling. After high school, Rick Warren attended California Baptist University, where his faith deepened and his calling became more apparent. One pivotal moment in 1973 sealed his sense of purpose. Rick drove with a friend to hear renowned Baptist pastor W.A. Criswell speak. After the sermon, Rick waited in line just to shake Criswell's hand. To his surprise, Criswell placed his hands on Rick's head and declared that he would make a difference for God. Rick would later describe this moment as divine confirmation. It was a turning point that clarified his calling to build a ministry that would reach beyond traditional church walls. The birth of Saddleback Church. In 1980, Rick and his wife Kay moved to Orange County, California, with no money, no congregation, and no building. Their journey began by knocking on thousands of doors, asking people why they didn't attend church. The answers they received became the blueprint for what would become Saddleback Church. It's boring, it's not relevant, I don't feel welcome. On Easter Sunday of 1980, they held their first service in a rented high school theater, with 205 attendees, most of whom were first-time churchgoers. This marked the birth of Saddleback, a church built on honesty, relevance, and the belief that faith should meet people where they are. Building a movement. What started as a small gathering in a high school theater quickly grew into a thriving ministry. In the early years, Saddleback Church had no permanent home. The Warrens and their team became known as a church with wheels, setting up and packing down services every Sunday in different venues. This humble beginning tested their faith and commitment, but Rick remained steadfast. He often said, "We didn't have a building, but we had a vision." That vision turned into a movement that reached thousands, and by 1993, Saddleback built its first permanent worship center in Lake Forest, California. It was more than just a building. It was a symbol of faith and perseverance. The Purpose-Driven Church. A revolutionary approach. In 1995, Rick Warren released The Purpose-Driven Church, a book that became a blueprint for church leaders around the world. The book introduced a simple yet revolutionary idea that every church, big or small, should be built around 5 biblical purposes: worship, fellowship, discipleship, ministry, and mission. This model resonated deeply with pastors and leaders, and within a few years, over 200,000 church leaders had been trained in the purpose-driven approach. The book's success helped Rick Warren solidify his role as a global leader in ministry, known not just for his faith, but for his practical approach to church leadership. The purpose-driven life, a global phenomenon. In 2002, Rick Warren released his most famous book, The Purpose-Driven Life. The book wasn't just for church leaders, it was written for ordinary people asking the question, what on earth am I here for? Structured as a 40-day spiritual journey, it guided readers through reflection, prayer, and lessons on finding deeper meaning in life. The simplicity of its message resonated with millions, and within months, the book sold over 1 million copies. By 2020, it had sold over 50 million copies in 85 languages, becoming the best-selling hardcover nonfiction book in U.S. history. Its impact reached far beyond the church, with celebrities, politicians, and athletes praising its life-changing message. Living out his faith. Reverse tithing. Despite his massive success, Rick Warren remained committed to living a humble life. He stopped accepting his $110,000 salary from the church, returned 25 years of paychecks, and began giving away 90% of his income. He called it reverse tithing, giving back more than he kept. In doing so, he set an example of selflessness and integrity. Rick's authenticity resonated deeply with people. While many televangelists built empires on luxury, Rick built trust through transparency. His approach to ministry was about making a difference, not amassing wealth or status. The loss of a son. A shattered heart. In 2013, Rick and Kay Warren faced the greatest tragedy of their lives. Their youngest son, Matthew, who had struggled with mental illness and depression for years, took his own life at the age of 27. Rick described the grief as beyond words. The pain of losing their son was compounded by cruel and judgmental comments from some who questioned their faith. But Rick responded with grace, saying, "People ask why God didn't heal Matthew. I tell them he did, just not on this side of eternity." It was a powerful statement of hope and faith, even in the face of unimaginable sorrow. Despite the pain, the Warrens turned their grief into a mission, speaking out about mental health and the church's role in supporting those suffering in silence. Hope for mental health. Turning pain into purpose. In the aftermath of Matthew's death, Rick and Kay Warren launched the Hope for Mental Health initiative. Their goal was to make churches safe spaces for those struggling with mental illness and to break the silence surrounding this often overlooked issue. They worked with doctors, therapists, and ministries to create a compassionate, faith-based approach to mental health. Kay became a leading advocate for mental health awareness, and together, they started partnerships that brought healing and hope to thousands of families. Their message was clear: faith and mental health are not enemies. You can love Jesus and still battle depression. A legacy of purpose and compassion. Rick Warren's life and ministry have been marked by extraordinary success, profound loss, and enduring faith. From the humble beginnings of Saddleback Church to the global impact of the purpose-driven life, Rick's journey is a testament to the power of purpose and perseverance. Even in the face of personal trials, he has remained a beacon of hope for others. His story reminds us that faith is not the absence of suffering, but the strength to walk through it. In his own words, "You were made by God and for God, and until you understand that, life will never make sense." Rick Warren's life is a powerful reminder that pain, when walked through with faith, can lead to purpose.